Now, live on Fox Providence. This is Eyewitness News at 6:30. Coverage you can count on.
Welcome to a special presentation from Eyewitness News Weather Week Summer Threats. Hello everyone, I'm Chief Meteorologist Tony Petrarca.
And I'm Meteorologist Michelle Muscatello. All week long we've been taking a closer look at summertime weather events, their impact on southern New England, and how you can prepare for them.
Now on Monday we tackled rain and lightning, two weather events we of course associate with summertime. We've already seen some major downpours so far this year. Rhode Island may be small, but its weather can vary significantly from one part of the state to another. Our official rainfall total and many other types of weather data are measured at TF Green Airport in Warwick. Last summer, 7.71 inches of rainfall were recorded at the airport. While that was below normal, it wasn't as dry as parts of Aquidneck Island, where rainfall totals fell in a range of only 3.5 to 5.5 inches of rain. So there could be a huge difference in rainfall amounts over a short distance during the summertime season in the smallest state in the country.
Now, you know, heavy thunderstorms can play a role in that. We certainly have seen that this week, especially. Some areas have been hit hard, others hardly got a raindrop.
Yeah, it varies from town to town and city to city. Thunderstorms are common here on the East Coast, especially this time of year, but they're actually rare on the West Coast. Why? Well, that's part of the reason. It has to do with that we need wetsuits to swim. It's cold ocean. It's sunny in Southern California, but it generally makes for chilly waters in the northern Pacific. So breezes off the Pacific often keep things a little cooler on the West Coast, which can rob potential storms of the much needed heat energy.
And Tony, the way we gather information on weather events like thunderstorms certainly has changed a lot over the last few years. It
really has. And part of our Weather Week coverage, I got a chance to talk to the National Weather Service about a brand new multi-million-dollar satellite that's going to change the game as far as weather data collection. In southern New England, the variety of rapidly changing weather from season to season is both beautiful and sometimes dangerous. Over the years, there's been a number of major advancements in weather technology. Doppler radar back in the late 1980s, the first weather satellite launched in 1960, and now the most advanced weather satellite high above our heads, GO-16. I spoke with Dave Valley from the National Weather Service. As forecasters, we're both excited about this next generation satellite.
3, 2, 1. And liftoff.
On November 19, 2016, the $500 million GO-16 weather satellite was launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. This advanced remote sensing platform orbits Earth, collecting huge volumes of data and imagery.
You'll be able to see actual cloud formation and thunderstorm formation and decay in real time as these systems are evolving. We've never ever had that capability before on such a large scale to be looking at this regionally.
Some of the major advancements with the GO-16 weather satellite: higher resolution. In other words, picking up small details in the atmosphere with greater clarity. Also increased data frequency. Quite simply getting more data over a short period of time. This is an infrared image of a storm over New England showing incredible detail and fluid motion within the atmosphere. This is called the water vapor channel. Now we have a better visualization of moisture at different levels of the atmosphere. This in turn will help to improve forecast accuracy.
This satellite is going to have the capability to be extracting wind vectors from various altitudes based on satellite estimates every 5 minutes. And that database is going to feed the numerical weather models that we rely on to predict the weather every day.
A brand new lightning mapping system now gives us the ability in real time to look at lightning flashes within thunderstorms.
Consider that this satellite's going to have a geostationary lightning mapper, multiple ways and arrays of measuring lightning activity in the clouds. That's a trigger for rapid intensification for hurricanes. When we see a big burst of lightning activity, that's a critical trigger that this system is about to go under rapid intensification.
I mean, we're excited about this new tool. I mean, it's really cutting edge, especially when it comes time to prepare for severe weather, especially during the summer.
And we know in the coming weeks, people will be able to see more and more of that data being used in our own forecast day to day.
Yeah, especially during hurricane season.
You know, another very cool and important tool that is used and has been used for more than a decade out over Cape Cod is weather balloons. Pete Mangione has a look at the key role they play in forecasting weather.
Once this weather balloon is launched, it will travel thousands of feet into the atmosphere, capturing critical weather data for meteorologists and the general public.
3, 2, 1.
Liftoff. It's a quick journey up into the sky for this weather balloon, which is launched twice a day from Monomoy National Wildlife Refuge in Chatham, Massachusetts. On the trip up, it will take readings in the upper atmosphere, which are crucial for weather forecasts, especially during severe weather.
It's measuring directly temperature, calculating the dew point temperature, and also pressure.
Alan Dunham from the National Weather Service Taunton office says there are launch sites like this all over the world, including Brookhaven, New York, and Long Island, Albany, New York, and Gray, Maine. But this spot in Chatham has a special distinction.
This is the furthest east upper air site in the continental United States.
Let's take you back to the beginning of the process. Lead upper air weather observer Tim Morissette has been launching balloons at this site for 10 years. First, he inflates the balloon with helium. Then he walks to a trailer next door. Once the balloon is already inflated, there is still a lot of preparation to do, as you can see behind me, including preparing the weather instrumentation and setting up the software. This is what's called a radiosonde. It's the actual device that will be observing and recording the weather data, which is then transmitted back to an antenna on the ground.
Temp sensor, got the humidity sensor here.
It also has a pressure sensor inside and a GPS unit, which is used to calculate wind speed and direction. Back in the garage, Morissette sets up a parachute and rope to attach to the radiosonde.
So on the way up, this will unwind all the way to 120 feet or so.
The balloon can exceed elevations over 100,000 feet. Eventually it bursts and usually ends up landing in the ocean. But occasionally, the parachute will drop it back on land. That was the case several years ago from a balloon launched in Albany.
We got a call once time from a very concerned lady that there was this package in a tree with a parachute, and she was convinced it was a bomb.
The computer models that the Pinpoint Weather team uses depend on the data from these balloons. The launches have to be done correctly and consistently, or else the forecast accuracy can lose altitude.
There's an old saying with computers, garbage in, garbage out, Geico. Right. Same thing with a weather forecast model. If you have lousy information going into the model, you're going to get a lousy forecast out of it.
And if you are interested in looking at the data from the balloon launches like the one you just saw, we've linked that information to our website at WPRI.com. I'm meteorologist Pete Mangione, Eyewitness News.
Well, we have a number of high-tech ways of gathering weather data. Sometimes important information comes from unexpected sources.
How about food? Like quail hogs. That's right, the tasty mollusks that are the New England staple for chowder and clam cakes. Quail hogs also unlock important info about the climate. According to a study by Cardiff University in Great Britain, the growth rings in the shells of the clam, which are like rings of a tree, can reveal the chemical makeup of the oceans. This allows researchers to look back at how the water has changed in the past 1,000 years.
The study found that changes in the sun's output as well as volcanic eruptions drive changes in the ocean, which in turn affect air temperature and our weather. These findings could help researchers unlock how changes in the ocean could impact the climate and weather in the future. Speaking of weather in the future, the last few days certainly have been very stormy and unsettled, and one thing that is a future product that the Storm Prediction Center places each day is something called the convective outlook. This was Thursday's convective outlook, placing much of southwestern New England, including much of Rhode Island, under a slight risk of severe thunderstorms. So I wanted to take a look at what those different categories mean for you. And so as we look at our conditions here through the afternoons and evenings during severe weather, we are talking about a slight risk, which just means that there is a slight chance of some severe weather, but also it's a step up from that marginal risk. So general thunderstorms, no severe storms expected. Marginal risk means isolated severe storms. That slight risk means a step up, scattered severe storms, and then enhanced means numerous severe storms are expected. Welcome back to this special presentation from Eyewitness News, Weather Week Summer Threats. All week long, we've been informing you about what Mother Nature has to offer when the weather is warm.
And this year, what it's had to offer has been a lot of rain, and we've needed it. Southern New England is recovering from an abnormally dry stretch that brought drought conditions for a good part of last year and some of this year. In both 2015 and 2016, the annual rainfall recorded at T.F. Green Airport in Warwick totaled up at around 40 inches. That's about 7 inches below normal each year.
But that's not even close to the driest year on record in Rhode Island. That was way back in 1965 when we received only 25.44 inches of precipitation. You know, good news this year, we're really making up for the deficit over the last 2 years. We have 20 inches more of rain through the middle of July than we had at this point last year.
It was March, April, May, that 3-month period. Wow, it was coming down all the time.
Yes, we definitely got some soakers. You know, really fun part of this week has been some of the research and statistics that we've been able to share that might be surprising for some people.
Weather trivia.
Yes.
So if you play Trivial Pursuit, you want to pay attention.
You know, we just talked about rainfall, but how about wind speeds? I bet if you ask most people about the windiest places in the U.S., a lot would guess Chicago, the windy city, right? But the average wind speed in Chicago is only about 10 miles per hour. That's not much higher than what we see here in Providence.
That's right. According to NOAA, the average wind speed in Providence, 9.3 miles per hour. Boston is more windy than both of those cities with an average of 11.5 miles per hour. And the windiest place in America, well, it's right here in New England. I spent an entire weekend in the winter on top of Mount Washington in New Hampshire with an average wind speed of over 35 miles per hour.
It's always kind of a good way to say, like, it could always be worse, right? Just to look up that information on what it's like on the top of Mount Washington.
Especially in the wintertime, the wind speeds are incredible.
Well, I'll just take a nice sunny day.
I agree.
That's another stat we looked up for Weather Week. We looked up a list from NOAA that ranked U.S. cities based on the percentage of annual possible sunshine. Providence finished 108th out of 175 cities at 58%. Now, if you think I don't like that stat.
No, if you think that sounds a little gloomy, just be glad you don't live in Juneau, Alaska. They ranked last place on the list with 30% of the annual possible sunshine. The sunniest spot, where else? Yuma, Arizona, with a score of 90%. Welcome back to this special presentation from Eyewitness News, Weather Week Summer Threats. All week long, we've been informing you about potential phenomena that strikes when the weather gets warm.
You know, there's one threat a lot of people underestimate, the sun. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, skin cancer is the most common cancer in the U.S.
And so the deadliest kind of skin cancer is caused by exposure to ultraviolet or UV light.
And most of us know to lather up with sunscreen before heading to the beach or pool, but there's reason to protect your skin even on days when you're stuck in the office. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the rate of skin cancer in Rhode Island is about 27 for every 100,000 people. What may surprise you is that this is higher than the rate for both the Sunshine State of Florida and the Carolinas. It's not just the number of days you spend on the beach. Dermatologists say sun damage can occur indoors as well. The reason? Glass is no match for UVA rays. Those are the rays responsible for skin aging and wrinkling. They also contribute to and may even initiate skin cancer development. At least 50% of UVA will penetrate glass. That means in addition to the sun you might soak in at work, you're also being exposed to UV rays in your car and at home.
People who work in office buildings and they have a window on one side of their face. And after 20 years of reporting to the same office, you can see they have a lot more wrinkles, a lot more brown spots on one side of their face than the other.
Dr. Sandy Chai of Rhode Island Hospital says even your commute to and from the office warrants protection from the sun.
And we actually diagnose more skin cancers on the left side of Americans than we do in other countries where they drive on the other side of the road.
We wanted to test our UV exposure while driving. With the windows up, the UV exposure is at a 1, and that's considered low. But once the window goes down, our UV index jumps to a 6, and that's high. Now, there's another way to test your UV exposure without any fancy equipment. It's using something called the shadow rule. The shorter the shadow, the more UV your body's being exposed to. Here are some other factors that determine your amount of UV exposure: time of day, the season, your elevation, and cloud cover. Dermatologists say putting on sunscreen should be part of your morning routine, even if you won't be spending the day outside.
I actually put my sunscreen right next to my toothpaste to remind myself to put sunscreen on. I recommend a broad spectrum sunscreen, and I like to ask my patients to look for 2 specific ingredients, titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. They're physical sunscreens, and I prefer those to the chemical sunscreens.
So even on cloudy days, and we've had a few of those this week, you still need to remember that sunscreen.
And a hat too, scalp.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny, you mentioned the clouds, which we've seen plenty of this week. We've had several viewers write in to ask us about what's going on with the weather pattern lately and why storms during the summer are much different than other times of the year. My goodness, where do we begin? Well, I think, Michelle, for one, I mean, the jet stream of the storm track during the summer season is, certainly different than what it is in the winter as far as its, its position and its strength.
When we talk about thunderstorm development, you need three things. You need moisture, instability, and lift. Well, this time of year, we've got the high humidity, that's your moisture, the instability, the sun, and the warm temperatures, and all you need is a front coming through or a system to give us the lift.
And of course, during the summertime season, I mean, this is very common sense, but in the summer, the ocean is warmer, whereas in the wintertime, the ocean is colder, and that change in water temperature plays a difference as how storms behave along the East Coast. So a number of factors as to why New England is such a challenge as the seasons change.
Welcome back to the special presentation from Eyewitness News, Weather Week Summer Threats. Our big goal this week has been to keep you informed about some of the safety risks that come up when the weather heats up.
Of course, in southern New England, a great way to cool down. Where else? Head to the beach, and that means you have to be on the lookout for rip currents. They're not always easy to spot, so we recently took Sky Drone 12 to Scarborough Beach in Narragansett to get a bird's eye view.
That sandy color in the water is a rip current, bringing the sand back out to the ocean. And that foam is another sign of a rip current. These are some of the things lifeguards are constantly looking out for. And
the important thing to keep in mind, if you're ever caught in a rip current, try to stay calm and swim parallel to the shore and not directly into the current.
Another danger we hear about all too often in the summer is the tragic death of children in hot cars. According to noheatstroke.org, a website run by the San Jose State University Department of Meteorology, over 700 young children have died by heat stroke in hot cars since 1998. The research website also points out that on a 90-degree day, temperatures in your car can reach 119 degrees in 20 minutes and 133 degrees in 1 hour.
Now, last month, a bill was introduced in Congress that would force car companies to install an alert system in new vehicles to warn the driver that someone is in the back seat. Now, General Motors has already begun installing similar systems in some of its latest models.
One thing we've gotten plenty of comments on so far this summer, the humidity.
The muggies, yeah, it's been pretty sticky, of course. And when we talk about humidity, we talk about the dew point.
A lot of our blog posts in the summer will include information about the dew point. We've had viewers like Timmons Roberts here ask about the meaning of those dew point numbers. Now, dew point's a way to measure moisture content in the atmosphere. It's a more scientific way than relative humidity, or a better way for us to really visualize how much moisture there is in the atmosphere. So we've been looking at dew points over 60 being muggy, below that pretty comfortable.
So it's a direct measurement of the amount of really water vapor in the atmosphere. You look at some of these storm clouds, and to get downpours, to get heavy precipitation, obviously you need the fuel, which is high humidity, and why we use the dew point, not just so much for a comfort factor, but also to gauge whether or not storms are going to be heavy precipitation producers, and really even in the wintertime as well. I mean, it's hard to get a snowstorm if you have very dry air. So we really look at dew points all year round, and the comfort factor and what it means as far as how you feel and how storms behave.
Well, Timmons was asking, where do I find out that information about that comfort level,
Good
the dew
question.
point? Right on our website.
WPRI.com. And boy, I tell you, the app during severe weather in summertime with the warnings and watches and thunderstorm warnings that are issued, a great thing to have. It's free anytime there's warnings with thunder or any kind of weather warning. It goes right here to your smartphone, and you stay atop of ever-changing weather when you're not at home in front of the TV.
It's a great source on days like we've had this week with severe weather, interactive radar, weather alerts. You can get it all right from your mobile device. I want to thank you for watching this special presentation from Eyewitness News, Weather Week Summer Threats.
Thanks for tuning in. Take care.